I certainly can see your screen. Looking good and mighty green.
Excellent. Excellent. So just want to say thanks to everyone for making it today. I know we had some rescheduling issues. So, again, thank you very much for accommodating that with your calendar. Just to introduce myself, I'm Aaron Stoddard. I'm with Merit Solutions, and I work pretty much exclusively with life sciences clients for Merit Solutions, whether that's pharma or med device. So just a high-level overview of what I'm talking about today. So when I say hybrid QMS environment, obviously we like to think about Dynamics AX as a highly integrated system. Your customers, vendors, sales, purchasing, inventory, production is all in one place. So, it's very nice to think about doing all of our functions inside AX, but obviously we know that we live within a universe of applications. Sometimes it makes more sense to host things outside of AX, depending on business or quality considerations. So I'm just going to talk about some scenarios that apply to the various functions and documents that apply to quality business processes and how that might live outside of AX, it might live inside, it might integrate, and what the scenarios might be. So for the agenda today, so there's 5 topics I'm going to talk about. The first is item change control and what some possible scenarios are for handling change control, things like revisions, change orders, document management related to items, deviations and non-conformances. CAPA is another topic. There are ways we can manage that inside of AX. There's scenarios where it make more sense to be outside of AX. Inspections, quality control inspections, incoming, receiving inspection, final inspection, production and process inspection are a few. And the last topic I'm going to talk about is complaint tracking. So that it can be tied to your CRM function, your sales front end, and it also has quality implications. Obviously, as anyone who's regulated by the FDA knows, complaints become reportable incidents, and does it result in a CAPA? What documents are being gathered? So all of that has to be considered. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A. And also, what I will do is after each topic, I'll just have Heather open up the floor, and we can take some questions. So our first topic, so change control and items. Obviously, this becomes a little bit more of a device consideration. As we know, AX is not a product lifecycle management system by itself. On the product dimension, size, color, config, there's no such thing as revision. And that's pretty important to companies in this business. The items typically have documents attached, drawings, specifications, data sheets. Release of new items is usually controlled by an ECO document. So you have to show some kind of traceability before you can use this item. If you do a revision to an item, you have to have a change order behind it. Some potential scenarios for accommodating this in AX. So one idea that can be used is to just convert the size or color dimension to revision, and from a quality perspective, you pretty much handle all your documentation outside of AX. So you basically have an external ECO. Your sign-offs and tracking are outside of AX, and then when you release a new item or a new revision to an item, you just add a revision dimension. There also are add-on solutions on the market for doing change control, from a completely integrated perspective. So you can write change order documents inside of AX. And then the third option is integration to an external PLM system. So, that would involve a system like, Siemens Teamcenter or Agile PLM, and then you basically just have release and entry of item data controlled in that system, and then that pushes into AX through an automated integration. So if we talk about the external integration, so in this scenario, you're pretty much managing everything outside of AX. So let's say we put a new item into the system. So somebody submits a request for a new item. Your document management team puts the item request into the PLM system. You basically have to undergo testing or other criteria. You know, there might be a supplier eval as well. You know, so a change order gets written. There might be a drawing behind if it's a manufactured part. That has to be tracked according to the item and its revision. So basically, you're managing all of this externally. And when you basically release the change order in your PLM system, you have a document interface to AX, and then that basically just pushes into your item master. So this would be another possible scenario. Another thing to think about as well, if you're managing externally, is disposition of revisions. For example, let's say I'm using revision A and I release revision B. There can be different dispositions. You know, do I use A to depletion? Do I purge all of A from my inventory and just go right to B? If a customer orders B, you know, am I allowed to sell them A? Most likely not. So, you know, those are some of the considerations that can come into play when you're managing the item data externally. So some of the things that could come into play, you know, whether you're deciding whether to integrate into AX or not. One thing is how many items are to be managed across how many legal entities. You know, that's going to drive basically the amount of manual effort that we want to automate. Another consideration is, what is the system of record? If you're going to use an external PLM system that, you know, that has full e-signatures and change orders, you know, basically you have to have the right controls in whatever you designate as a system of record. AX by itself probably does not demonstrate enough controls to be a system of record for your item master. So, you know, if you're going to go integrated and consider AX your system of record, you basically need add-ons to show those controls. You know, things like workflows and e-signatures and entering items and revisions. And so that plays into the quality requirements, what controls you have to display. I mean, obviously, if we're talking about life sciences, you know, in 21 CFR Part 11, you know, pretty much all these records have to be auditable, signed, controlled. You know, so we pretty much have the strictest parameters involved there. So with that, I'll open up the floor to questions about item master management.
So I am not seeing anyone with their hand raised or questions posted at this time. So let me give them more. Well, wait, hold on. I said that, and then somebody else.
Okay.
So Bob has said we use Siemens. Is it Siemens? I'm sorry. Siemens. Thank you. Thank you. PLM and AX, and he said we are manually moving items. After items are released from PLM, I think he's posting them. You know what, Bob? Let's see if we can unmute you so you can actually. He's posting his questions one-on-one. All right, Bob, I'm going to unmute you. So here we go.
Hello, Bob.
Oh, hi.
Yeah, I was trying to type feverishly. So
sometimes talking's easier.
Yeah, no, just real briefly. You know, we are a PLM customer. We've been Team Center Express customers for about 5 years, and once we release our items from PLM, you know, we have a, you know, I would probably call it a poor man's integration, where we essentially extract content from PLM and, you know, and then have our product configuration teams, you know, import using an AIF import tool.
Okay, so is it like a file sort of?
It is.
Okay.
So what we have is we have an extract from Team Center which organizes the data to, import into AX.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any recommendations? And so what we're assessing, I'm not to make sure this is a Team Center specific question, but I was just intrigued when you mentioned it. Do you have any recommendations on third-party solutions to completely integrate PLM, Siemens, and AX?
Yeah, there are ISVs on the market. I do know To Increase offers. I've heard they offer a pre-built link between Team Center and AX. So that's one option that I know of. I don't know if you've talked to them before.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
And who is that again? I'm sorry.
To Increase, TO-increase.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Bob, I will. I'll shoot you an email after the fact, and I can see if I can help you find someone. They aren't really involved with AXUG, but that doesn't mean I can't help you at least find someone, and you can go from there on your own. How about that?
Perfect.
No problem.
Any other questions on item master management?
Nope, I think Bob was the only one.
Okay. So I'll move on to deviations and non-conformances. So this could be a natural thing to manage inside AX. If you're doing full manufacturing inside the system, obviously it's pretty useful. The one thing that I think kind of blurs the picture a little bit is if you're using contract manufacturers and they're feeding deviation data as part of a device history record. That's where you might get into some integration. So if we talk about what AX does standard, or what we can track with deviations in AX, it's things like production orders, quality orders, purchase receipts, sales orders, quarantine orders. Those are the standard functions. But like I just said, in the world of outsourced manufacturing, your device history record becomes important, and how you integrate your deviation data with those outsourced vendors. Whether they send you device history record through a file, if you can do an automated integration of some kind. So those are important considerations in whether you manage deviations inside or outside of AX. So for example, here might be a device history record that your contract manufacturer gives you. So you'd have a deviation number. It would probably reference an item number, batch number, quantity. And one possibility is to build a file import or an AIF service that imports this data. I will say from experience, and this has been very surprising to me, there are a surprising number of contract vendors, and these are large multi-billion-dollar contract manufacturers who are still giving us device history data on handwritten forms that have been scanned in as PDFs. That becomes the most difficult situation, basically, to integrate from an automated perspective. So it really comes down to the question of when you're outsourcing, are you going to track a full pedigree of your outsourced product in your systems, or will you rely entirely on the QMS of your contract manufacturing partner? If you have to go back and do a recall or an investigation on something that's been outsourced, how will you harvest that data? So that's probably the most important consideration, whether you're putting your deviations in AX, outside of AX, or where they're residing. So with that, does anybody have any questions? concerning deviations or non-conformances?
Not seeing anything right now, unless somebody wants to speak up. Yep, you're good to go.
Okay. Okay. CAPA. So corrective and preventative actions can be opened based on a number of sources. It needs to be just a few. You know, if you've accumulated a lot of non-conformances or deviations against an item in response to customer complaints or a number of customer complaints, you might open a CAPA as a result of a supplier audit, possibly as a result of an internal audit. You know, a CAPA could be open against your process, your design controls. If Material Review Board might open a CAPA against an item, you know, depending on what trends they're finding. So those are basically, you know, some of the places that your CAPAs could be coming from. So if we talk about what's in AX from the base, they have this construct called corrections. Now, they're kind of hooked to the non-conformances functionality that already exists inside AX. So, you know, depending on your volume of records, what data you're wanting to track, etc., you know, that could be a possibility. Now, granted, I think for the life sciences market, that it's not very applicable because it's not really as control of a record. You know, things like e-signatures and workflows aren't configured. So another possibility that that we're seeing, and I think it's been improved a lot in recent versions of AX, would be case management. So if we talk about the case functionality that exists in AX, so you basically reference a customer, an item, or a combination of those to open a case against something. So you can log all your associated information, you know, for this case. You know, basically we're gonna rename this into a CAPA type case. So you basically have responsible parties inside the company for tracking and performing activities on the case. And built in, it has a log of activities. Usually a CAPA will have phases. So this might be an example SOP, you know, for CAPA. So we'd have an initiation phase where, you know, someone opens the CAPA, someone has identified some kind of, you know, trending data with an item that's out of spec. There might be too many complaints coming in. So at the initiation phase, you'd relate it to a deviation. Or you could open it as a preventative action. There could be a potential for a problem happening. So after initiation phase, CAPA plan is filed. So, you know, depending on what the CAPA is responding to, you're going to have a list of actions to be performed. You know, is it a piece of equipment that has to be repaired? Is it a supplier action that has to happen? You know, what are the actions that have to be done as part of the CAPA? And, you know, there can be steps, you know, if we fix a piece of equipment, we have to monitor the result of that repair. You know, over a period of time, do we see a reduction in deviations? You know, that can be part of the CAPA plan. So we move to the next phase, which is approve the CAPA plan. So that basically says that we can move forward with this CAPA. You know, the activities we've affiliated with it, we think are going to fix the problem. You know, so in our completion phase, that basically involves performing all the activities you've attached. If there's any monitoring required, you know, of trending data after implementing your fix, you know, that's basically part of your plan. And then you basically have a closure phase where you say, yes, this was effective, it's done, it's approved. So the other nice thing about the cases in AX is that they even already have workflows on them. So this can be very handy for showing approvals. You know, if you need to create an auditable log out of approvals that happened while you executed this, that is a handy feature. And again, they do have responsible parties as well. So you can record who did what. And the other handy feature of these cases are activities. So basically, you've got these actions that can be attached to your case. So an action could be, repair a piece of equipment, review trending data, et cetera, et cetera. So basically you have this whole construct of that, your CAPA plan being your list of activities that you attach to this. And with that comes assignments. If I just back up to the case CAPA and its activities, each activity can have an individual person responsible for performing that activity. So if we look in the right pane, the responsible person, this would be your CAPA coordinator or a similar role. And then each activity has a person responsible. So these have sort of an assignment construct for workflow purposes. And in a quite handy manner, this shows up in your AX client under your My Cases and My Activities. So if you happen to be the coordinator for these, they show up here. If you happen to have some activities assigned to you, they show up there. So the other thing that's handy is that these cases used as CAPAs have sort of a workflow construct as well, with open, an in-process phase, close, cancel. So you can basically track as you go along what's happening with this. So talking about out-of-box functionality, those are a couple possible ways that you could manage CAPA within AX. So with that, I'm going to open up to any questions.
Yep, no questions.
Okay.
Blank slate. Oh,
okay.
Wait, I'm sorry. I said
Got
that.
One?
I spoke too late. Bob's raising his hand, so
All
hold
right.
on 1 second. I'm going to
Bob.
unmute him. He's going to be our star pupil today. Here you go.
Great.
Bob, you're unmuted.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've muted yourself, Bob. There you go. There he goes. You hear it?
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sure, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, again, pardon me.
No
we are Dynamics. We are Dynamics CRM customers, and as you can probably imagine, just real briefly, we are heavy users of the case entity in CRM, and the real appealing feature in Dynamics CRM is the email integration right in the Outlook program.
Mm-hmm.
Just real curious with CAPAs. With a lot of the email correspondence that occurs, at least in our organization, do you get a sense that Microsoft AX will have or will invest in, say, email integration that would compete or maybe complement CRM? I know that may be an unfair question. I was kind of curious.
No, that's not unfair at all. So, I think, what you're referring to is the fact that CRM is kind of a plug-in inside of Outlook,
mm-hmm.
and you can kind of look at these activities or functions,
mm-hmm.
And whether, as far as integrating this function between AX and Outlook, you know what? I am not aware of an integration
mm-hmm.
in that respect.
And I was just curious if
mm-hmm.
maybe if we used Dynamics CRM to record the cases to support our CAPA process and use, say, the Dynamics connector to replicate cases from CRM to AX, and then somehow then put in a further method to correlate CAPAs with vendors and items. And I'm just wondering if you think that would be directionally correct.
Right. You know what? That's an interesting question. I hadn't thought about doing that. And I can see the attraction because you're wanting to get the link to your vendor master and your item master, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's where you have kind of the powerful aspect. And honestly, I am not as familiar with the concept of case management in Dynamics CRM myself. But that's a definite possibility. Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, I was just curious on your opinion on that. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions?
Let's
Once, twice?
see. Nope, that's it. It was just Bob.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. Okay. Inspections, another popular topic. So, a couple examples, your purchase receipt, your production in process, you might have an inspection, while you're producing an item. So there's a couple options for tracking this. There's the quality order functionality that is now standard in AX 2012. So you basically enter your, you have this thing called the quality work order, enter all your results in AX, maintain your test plans in AX. There's the test group construct. With that said, there's some gaps in AX out of the box for doing this. The quality order itself doesn't really have any workflow construct on it, as far as editing or the data on the quality order. The other thing is if functions on the quality order or test lines have to be signed, there's a few complications around that. So there are some add-on solutions where, adding things like workflows to the quality order itself. So, once somebody has approved the quality order, it becomes uneditable, becomes locked for editing. Also, for putting e-signatures inside of workflows, that's not really a standard Dynamics AX function. So, for when you do your approve, collecting an e-signature and logging it in the right place and presenting it in an auditable format is important. So that would be an add-on function as well. Another option that's sometimes pursued is quarantine orders. So, basically you put your material on a quarantine order in AX, do your inspection in your external QMS, and there are a few on the market. And then you basically finish the inspection and then just take it off quarantine in AX and you're done. So that's an option as well. Another possibility would be, and the thing you miss with that is basically the idea of an automated generation. The nice thing about quality orders and quarantine orders in AX is they can be auto-generated in response to a trigger, whether it's receiving a purchase order, whether it's executing a production order. At the completion you create an inspection, or for shipping a sales order if you do a final inspection. The nice thing about managing this in AX is that you have those triggers already present, you have your item master present, you have your batch and serial number data present. So those are the nice things about inspections. The other thing that comes into play here too is if you have things like SOPs and work instructions, how to document manage those together with these inspection protocols. The inspection protocol itself is an ECO control document. So you have some document management concerns there, and again, an add-on solution, if you're going integrated, is probably warranted. AX document management probably isn't going to cut it. So just talking about inspections on this topic, do we have any questions or any comments, anything to add?
I'm not seeing anything.
Okay. All right. Complaints. So this is another big one. So, what system do the people logging this data use? Do they use AX or an external CRM? We're running into a lot of places where, Dynamics CRM, Salesforce.com, one of those types of functions are really popular front-end systems. So, we might be dealing with an external CRM. So complaints, again, just sort of similar to our CAPA discussion, have sort of a workflow. This would be an example. Is there an initiation, an investigation, and a closure? So if we're starting a complaint, what are the data or parameters that we might be capturing? These would be a few. In this example, this complaint was started as part of a clinical study. This is not a released item, but it's being used on patients in a clinical capacity. So again, another possibility is to use the cases functionality in AX. So the thing I didn't mention earlier is that the cases can basically have a type attached to them. So you can create different case types, depending if you have a CAPA case, if you have a complaint case, and you can use that to filter. And basically, some employees can, from a security perspective, can look at your CAPA type cases, and some can look at your complaint type cases. So that's a way of ensuring that only the right people have access to your data. So an employee who has access to CAPA type cases will come into this screen, and when they look at their all cases, they're only going to see the ones that are CAPAs. And an employee who has complaints type access is going to come in and they're only going to see the complaint type cases. So again, these have similar constructs to them, to accommodate this initiate, investigate, and close. When you have a complaint come in, and you might have a workflow configured on this, and cases have workflow out of the box in AX, so that can be handy to use. So you might have somebody responsible for reviewing the complaint at the initiation phase. What's the scope of this? What actions have to be performed? As part of the investigation, does this involve receiving and reviewing some material? Quality inspection of the material. And basically through the activities functionality, we can track the investigation. And during the closure phase, again, this comes back to workflow. If we configure workflow steps properly, we can have a review and a proper closure of the complaint. So my last slide here is just kind of a high level, I guess I called it a universe of quality data. If we look at what types of things might be inside AX, for example, so we have an item master, we have a batch master, that's basically your list of batches that have been produced. In this example here, we're actually using the quality orders in AX. So, for example, when we do a purchase receipt, we have a quality order or inspection get generated, and then we have all these constructs in AX, basically our test plan, together with our quality order. Now, what happens if our quality order fails? And we have to record a non-conformance. So we might have an external QMS system for tracking that. So an automated integration again to pop or open a non-conformance. Now, when you look at that, then we now have to sync the item master record between AX and our QMS. And this factors into device history record as well. Having your device history record inside AX is very handy because, again, then you're not having to do an automated integration. So with that, I'll open up the floor to questions overall about this topic.
Okay, I'm not seeing anyone's hand raised. I'm afraid to unmute just because I don't know about the background noise that we may get here, but feel free, don't be shy. We're a small group of people, so you're not speaking in front of hundreds. Nope. So if you have something to say or a question to ask, You can either raise your hand, I'd be glad to unmute you just as Bob has done, or you can post it in the questions, I'll be glad to read it. And if you are someone that's just shy and you don't want to speak in front of the group, I understand. We will post this webinar to collaborate following this meeting. And you'll get an email link in your email directly to the recording. And there can be a discussion on this. So you can post your questions there, and Aaron's can gladly go out and address them. Or if I see that you've posted something, I can forward them to Aaron, and we can do it that way. I don't want you to walk away not resolving any questions or concerns or fixing something that you're encountering. So I'm sure Aaron feels the same way.
I agree.
And no question is a bad question. Oh, we
Absolutely.
have one.
All
the
right,
pep
awesome.
talk worked. Okay, so Rahit, I hope I'm saying your name properly, and I apologize if I'm not, but his question is the quarantine method is not applicable for production orders, right? So he's asking, is that correct?
Yes, that is true.
That is true. Rahit, would you like me to unmute you so you can improvise, or is that good? He's good.
Okay.
Shy. All right. The only one that came in there, the only brave soul that decided to step up, I guess. All right. So do we have anything else, Aaron, or do you want me to conclude the webinar from here and we'll just see? Oh, wait. See?
Another one?
One more.
Excellent.
Yep. Oh, great seminar, Bob said. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sure Aaron appreciates that. It's sometimes very hard to present when everybody's on mute and you feel like you're talking to yourself. So, Aaron, I completely understand what you're going through. You crack a joke, no one laughs. It's like crickets, right? From no fault of your own.
That's all right. I'm used to, talking at people, right?
Right. All right. Well, with that said, we will conclude today's webinar.
Great.
I want to thank everyone for attending. And Aaron, thank you so much for stepping up and presenting this. And, well, I got a hand raised.
And, I'll just, we did? Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to unmute you. Juan, you are unmuted. Unless he didn't mean to raise his hand. Juan, are you here? Let's see.
Do we have?
Well, he's not muted himself either. Maybe he did it by accident.
Don't see in the chat.
No.
Okay.
All right. Well, so like I was saying, I thank everybody so much for attending and Aaron for presenting today. And again, just to remind everybody, this will be posted in Collaborate. You'll get an email with the direct link there. If there was anything that you just didn't want to ask or it pops up in your mind after the fact, feel free to start a discussion onto that recording link, and I'll be glad to share that with Aaron. And it looks like Juan is raising. No, I think he took it back.
Okay.
I think Juan's playing with his controls.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for attending. We appreciate it. And, oh, wait, Juan has posted it. I'm so sorry. We keep going back and forth. He's saying he has no microphone, so that explains that. But he said, do you know of any LIMS software to integrate?
Oh, to integrate LIMS to, okay, so for...
a data system to integrate with AI.
Right. It's to basically collect your lab results. I have not come across any yet, which does not mean that they don't exist. God, I'm trying to remember.
I can say one.
I'm drawing a blank. Yeah.
This would be an excellent discussion and collaborate. This is exactly what it's for.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
You have about 13,000 Dynamics AX users at your fingertips in that online community. So I would strongly suggest you to post that in the main open forum in the discussion there, and see if someone has something that they've done or can recommend. You might be surprised with what you'll see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to get you stumped, Aaron, or to take away any.
Oh, no worries.
Anything from you, but yeah. All right, so with that said, I guess we'll give everyone 14 minutes back out of their hour today to resume their work week. Happy hump day it is, Wednesday that is. And again, if you are not engaged in ACSUG, I strongly encourage you to do so. There's so many ways that you can. Webinars, regional chapter meetings, special interest group meetings, much like what you're seeing here today. Collaborate, that is the word of the day apparently. And just so much more. So please, if there's anything that we can do for you, you can always email me, heather@acsug.com. I'd love to share with you ways that you can get involved. And again, Aaron, thank you so much. And we'll get this posted out to everyone so that you can revisit this or start a discussion.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.